There are businesses ranking #1 on Google for every keyword in their niche, and ChatGPT doesn't mention them once. The reason? They're not in any of the listicles that AI uses to make recommendations. Listicles are one of the fastest ways to get recommended by AI right now, but if you do it wrong, you'll tank your Google rankings in the process. In this video, we're going to show you exactly how to use listicles safely so you win in both Google and AI search.
All right, so if you've spent any time looking at AI visibility, you've certainly heard about listicles.
What's a listicle?
Listicle. So yeah, someone searching for the best running shoes, the best digital PR agency, whatever it is, they're likely to come across some listicles, whether that be in Google or in ChatGPT. So these, I think what we'll get into here is that this is something that works very well right now. There's been talk over the last few months of it's not working as well as it was before, that ChatGPT is not citing as many listicles as it previously was. But we want to talk about the dangers of this. There, of course, anytime a new strategy comes out, there's some people who will push it to the extreme. And I think if you're a company and you're willing to do that and you're going to take the short-term gain for the long-term dangers, that's fine. But I think if you are using an agency, you want to understand the risk reward here. And make sure the agency you're using is not using short-term tactics. So we don't yet know what ChatGPT is going to do in the other AI models as well. We don't know if they will be like Google, where they'll have they will specifically target strategies that have been designed to manipulate recommendations. Like in the early days of Google, anyone who's an SEO veteran remembers, the Panda updates, the Penguin updates, some devastating updates. And for a lot of people, they were pushing the limits themselves. They could accept the consequences of my website was wiped out because I was using this black hat tactic.
Anything to game the system is what they don't want to see, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. But for a lot of small businesses, they were using an SEO agency. They didn't understand what was going on. And this is why it's important to understand what's behind the strategy and if there's risk there. So we don't know if ChatGPT will crack down on some of these strategies, but we know that some of these strategies do put you at risk with Google. And I think that's an important thing. A lot of people are saying SEO is dead. It's all about AI visibility. And we think you shouldn't abandon your Google focus just for AI visibility. You should focus on tactics that cover both. So what's been happening is that a lot of companies, a lot of websites have really abused this listicle strategy. They're churning out listicles. I think we heard an example the other day of some company who was Penalized who had created over 100 listicles in a single month. That's extreme.
And just to clarify, this is people or businesses producing listicles on their own web property as opposed to third-party properties. Is that correct?
I think it's a mix of both. Producing them on their own. They're the ones producing them. That's the main thing. So they create a listicle. They're always #1. They're putting them on their own website. They're putting them on other places where they can post as well. Right. So Google has cracked down on this a bit. They've penalized a couple sites who are clearly abusing this strategy. So there's a few things we want to highlight with the risk here. So I think standard SEO practices should apply. If you've ran the prompts you want to start appearing for in ChatGPT, you've looked at the sources, and you see that, okay, here's the listicles that ChatGPT is citing from, and that's your target to get on. All right, so if you go to those publications and you vet them, if you were looking at it from an SEO perspective, is that a good publication? Does Google trust that site? That's easy to see. Are they getting traffic? If you use a tool, SEMrush, Ahrefs, SimilarWeb, if they're getting traffic, a decent amount of traffic from Google, you can assume Google likes that site, they trust them, they're not been penalized. If they don't have a lot of traffic, that's something you need to vet harder, right? It's usually the case, especially if you see a high domain rating, a low organic traffic number, they've been penalized with Google. So those are ones that even though they might help you with your AI visibility, you might not want to go and get a link in those ones. I would say if you're really prioritizing AI visibility over SEO, over your Google traffic, then you can still pursue that listicle. Just don't have a link. Just have them mention you and not add the link.
I was going to say, is that a way to protect yourself whilst engaging in this strategy to just avoid the link?
It is, because as far as I know, Google hasn't penalized companies for just being mentioned.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I'm sure they could. I'm sure they have that data. An unlinked mention is something that they can watch. But okay, so let's assume then that it keeps you on the safe side of Google. What about if the LLMs themselves, like you said, decide to crack down on gaming the system through listicles? Even, and obviously a lot of these companies are going to be engaging in pattern activity, aren't they? Like you said, it's always them number one. I imagine they always do the same competitors that aren't really competitors within that list as well. Obviously, that's like the best way to position a listicle. You don't want to name your direct competitor as number two. So there will be that pattern as well. So is that something to think about?
In my opinion, the only thing that would really make sense to do if you're cracking down is to like target companies who are clearly distributing a bunch of their own. Like I think it's okay to distribute, one or two listicles where you put yourself as best. Like that's not a new practice. Companies have been doing that forever. A lot of companies genuinely believe that they are the best solution. So I don't see them going after that, and I definitely don't see them going after like if you put out a listicle like for some of our clients we've been targeting like Forbes and NerdWallet and some of these big sites. Like they're not going to penalize the sites who are on there, right? That's just not going to happen. So I think that's the biggest thing. Look at those listicles before you try and get on them. Vet them. If you think maybe it's a risky site as far as Google is concerned for SEO tactics, consider not asking for the link. Just have them mention you. Okay. Now, as far as your own listicle strategy, I think it's just be a little more conservative. Don't do 100. That's excessive. Insane. Yeah. I'm not going to go as far to say as don't do this. Like, I know a lot of people are saying like, well, if it's not a helpful article, there's always people who they'll find every reason not to go for a tactic because it's in some way violates Google's stance because it's not helpful. But like 99.9% of the content out there on the internet is not designed to be helpful. It's designed to like get you interested in someone's product or service. So I just don't buy into this. I think the white knight SEOs aren't even doing this themselves. They're behind the scenes doing all these same tactics.
Yeah.
So what we've told people, we've been saying this for a long time. Our advice has always been when you're deciding about a listicle, decide if it's worth going for if you think, hey, people on this page are actually going to come and visit us. If we get included in this listicle, will we actually get direct traffic from it? If so, it's a good business decision because you're not going to get into most of these listicles for free. Some of them you will. Some of them they maybe review once a year and they do pick the best companies. Most of them are going to ask for money. And again, that's against Google's terms of services. But if you've ever used a link building agency, you have participated in paid links. Sorry to tell you that. And if you're still worried, you're saying, okay, well, we've never ever paid for links. Totally fine. Then, you don't have them link. You can pay to be included and not include the link, or you can mark it as sponsored. If it's marked as sponsored, Google doesn't care. So you're no longer manipulating because they won't consider it a ranking factor. So far, the AI models have not looked at, it's no difference to them. No. Sponsored, no sponsored, it's included. So there's some ways that you can do it in a safe way. But for our advice has been, is it a good business decision overall? And we think if you're included in a NerdWallet or a Forbes article, you're likely to get some business from it. Mm-hmm. Now, not all of them are going to be paid. Like we said, some of them they just update every once in a while. And then some of the really big ones work on a completely different model. They'll be a cost per lead, cost per click, something like that. So even though they're not saying like, hey, you're paying for a link, it is still it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just a different pricing model.
Yeah. And I think there's been, like you said, a lot of talk lately that it's like people are abusing it and it's just potentially to be scared off by it. I don't think that's the case yet. I'm still seeing loads and loads of listicles inside of LLMs. And I'd be interested to see what the LLMs will use instead of listicles. I'm finding it difficult to think like, for software and things like that, will it be like Patera reviews and these like review aggregators that they use? But then it's difficult to sort of have any sort of editorial like sensibility behind those recommendations that it surfaces then is it going to just be brand websites? Like you said, a brand website always lists themselves as number one. It seems disingenuous to the user of like an LLM. If I go into ChatGPT and say, what's the best plumber in Kidderminster, and Kidderminster Plumbers has done a top 10 plumbers in Kidderminster, and Kidderminster Plumbers as number one. It's like, well, okay. Yeah. Is this like good, like analyzed information? So it will be interesting to see where it goes. So I think everything that you've said is exactly right. Stay on the safe side of it. Do all of your due diligence. If in doubt and you still want to go for it, then like try and omit the link and keep looking inside of the results. Let's see what is happening, because it's changing so quickly. But for now, it's still heavily slanted on listicles. And I wouldn't bother with the whole. If you see Reddit in there, then don't waste your time trying to get yourself into Reddit, because that is just a completely different battle.
Well, and I will say that we have not seen a reduction in the number of listicles. So the sites that, or the kind of prompts that we're running, we're not seeing that. We're working more with professional service firms, and we're not seeing that at all. So I think the article I read specifically pointed out SaaS. So SaaS was seeing a little bit lower. But we also know that this can change quickly. One update could rely less on listicles, and then these updates are pretty frequent. There could be another update 2 weeks later that relies more on listicles. If we overall see less listicles included, I would think that would be as the AI models start to understand more about the companies, and so they have maybe like more recognition of who's the dominant players in each space and what like specialization they have. That would be my assumption, that over time they just need less like research. If they already understand that the best CRMs for companies with 10 to 20 people who are remote, have 100% remote teams are this, maybe they just need less research. It's just they already have that understanding. So that would be my assumption just long term.
I agree. And I think the personalization will also be a huge impact. So if you're someone who is a vegan and you love Metallica and you're looking for, what is the best t-shirt that I can buy, it's only going to recommend vegan-made Metallica t-shirts, because it knows that's what you like. So it's not even going to look at the other brands or pull from listicles. Maybe, I don't know, but that's you can see the personalization happening, and it's getting more scary. It's getting like Facebook style scary, I think, now.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing I would say is like, go for these strategies, just don't go too extreme. Don't risk your brand reputation, your Google rankings. But if ranking for, best accounting firm in Denver, if getting recommended from that works by getting into listicles right now, but go for it, right? Because that's extra business, that's extra revenue you can invest to building up your brand. Long term, it's going to be about like your brand positioning, your brand strength. That's really what's going to win long term. But short term, like, go for some of these strategies, just do it in a responsible way, reinvest that extra profit back into building your brand. I think that's the best way to play it.
Yeah. And like you said, having the nice thing about this strategy outside of like a traditional SEO strategy is some of these listicles, they're on like decent websites, and it's a strategic like investment decision. Like if you get yourself into that listicle in the top 1, 2, 3 spots, like you're going to get really high intent targeted referral traffic that's going to drive revenue. So yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So, and some of the big ones that we've reached out to, like they're actually achievable. Like you have to be a real brand. You have to have a good reputation. Like they actually do vet you. So like think about the big ones: NerdWallet, Forbes. It's not like a give us $10,000 and you're in. Like they have, like we mentioned, the cost per click model. But I think that's actually a decent consideration. Like if you look at your cost to acquire a customer, does that line up? If it does, like you're getting 3 benefits there. You'll get maybe it's comparable to what you would pay to acquire a customer through like Meta ads or Google ads. You have to do that math and see. But you're also going to get probably a rankings boost from Google, and you're going to get more AI recommendations. I think if you weigh that overall, that's a plus. And right now, a lot of these listicles are just starting to get targeted. A lot of the ones we're reaching out to, and they're like, they find out like we're interested from AI visibility standpoint, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. 6 months from now, will that be the case, or are they going to be bombarded and those prices going to start to go up and up and up? So if you can lock in a 1-year contract, 2-year contract, maybe not a bad idea.
Yeah, great shout.